Lawrence.
Present.
Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Howie.
Present.
Commissioner Barrera.
Present.
Commissioner Marquetti.
Here.
Commissioner Lee.
Here. All right, everybody's here. I got a phone call from Commissioner Locke. She has a valid reason for not being here. All right, before we get into public comment, I'm going to warn everybody that you don't single out any one specific commissioner. You're going to have 3 minutes to talk. In our board and rules of procedure, and pretty much everywhere else, you don't address the crowd, you're addressing us, because this is our meeting and you're bringing your concerns to us. If it goes over 3 minutes, realize that we only got an hour and then we got a business meeting to go to for other county business. So with that said, anybody for public comment, you have the floor.
I'm Rose Kelsheimer, and as a resident of Cass County, I'm concerned that the commissioners are voting to contract with or not contract with Market Van Buren when there's issues with our budget. There was considerable conversation about personnel positions at the August 14th special meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Is the contract with Market Van Buren so urgent that it has to be considered right now? Has there been a screening process conducted with other agencies that the commissioners could explore? Do the commissioners fully understand the intentions of Market Van Buren in developing our community? Are there any conflicts or independence issues? Is there a connection with commissioners sitting on the board of Market Van Buren or Connexus in a decision-making capacity or influence? It seems like an independence issue where self-interest, integrity, objectivity, skepticism, and the benefit of per diems could pose a problem. I've been made aware that 2 commissioners are on these boards, Market Van Buren, 1 commissioner, and Connexus, 2 commissioners, and they should recuse themselves. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I'll go next, assuming Jeremiah doesn't throw me out.
Oh, no.
Hey,
You have 15 minutes.
I'm here as the, as the representative from the Economic Development Corp for Cass County. I am currently the vice chair, but for about the last 3 years, I have been the chair. I'm assuming that your decision on Market Van Buren has already been made, and I'm not trying to sway that decision. But I feel like because of the fact that I can't name names, but there's only one of you commissioners who has been here as long as I have, representing Cass County and their efforts towards economic development. So for the rest of you, it feels to me like a little bit of history would be helpful. So back when I started, I want to give you a little sense of what economic development looked like in Cass County. We had 1 person for 1 day, and it was wholly ineffective. Our budget at the time was only $25,000, therefore that's all we could afford. But with 1 person, 1 day a week, we really couldn't get anything done. Okay? I will say, in our defense, we did a heck of a job supporting and leading the Imagine Cass effort, which I think has had fantastic results. So I want you to think about, we all try to forget this, but let's think about the pandemic and where we were, and if you were a business owner in Cass County, the trauma that you were feeling. At that time, Market Van Buren, love them or hate them, came to us with a proposal. They came to rescue us, essentially. Their proposal essentially said, we'll give you about 75, at the end of the day, after some mucking around, it ended up being, they'll give us $75,000 in economic value matched by our $25,000. Think about that just for a second. And somebody said urgency in the first comment. Think about the urgency of the pandemic and the fact that a firm that none of us have anything to do with comes to us, essentially to our rescue, and offers us 3 times what we offered. We said, yeah, of course we said yes. Why wouldn't we? They filled a very critical void. What does that look like? Loans, grants, businesses in need across the county all of a sudden had a resource that they would not have had without Market Van Buren. And let me say that as the chair of the Economic Development Corp. We wouldn't have done anything near what we wouldn't have done anything, quite frankly. We just didn't. It's that good, huh? We didn't have that resource. We didn't have those connections. They did. They played matchmaker, and I think they were successful. I think they did great work.
Thanks, Les.
Am I done?
Yes, sir.
Okay, through that, they have my trust, they earned my trust, they have that trust today.
Don't want to hear the alarm, so I'll be quick. In the spirit of full disclosure, I'm a Badger, so hopefully that's not a problem. I heard the discussion about Ohio
I
State.
only hate that team.
Yeah, right? Yeah, we don't scare anybody these days. We're in the Big Ten West. So, anyways, I'm here to speak on behalf of Zach and Market Van Buren as well. I'm Dave Allen. I work with Midwest Energy and Communications. As you know, we're developing that business park on the east side of Cassopolis. It's a multi-million-dollar project, and to help build that out, we needed some grant money from the state and feds, and we were able to secure $11 million in those grants. Zach was a big part of that. Problem is with economic development, not a lot of what you see hits the light of day. I mean, there's a lot of confidentiality associated with the positions, so I could talk about Project Cyclist, Project Singularity. They all have goofy names associated with them. But you never hear about any of these projects. But one you did hear about was Hydro, Norsk Hydro, or Hydro Aluminum Metals. That's a $150 million project. That's been a huge sea change for Cass County and for the village of Cassopolis, and I don't think anyone can deny that. That would not be here absent Zach's influence. Zach was very involved in that project in the early stages. I think our first meeting, we had about 20 people in a room, and Zach was one of them, talking about workforce development issues and other issues associated with the project, and I really appreciate his participation in that. Just last week, we had a meeting with Eagle to talk about some other issues with Hydro, and Zach was there to represent our interests. So I just urge you to consider continuing on with that contract with Zach, with Market Van Buren. I know from my perspective at Midwest Energy, it's been a huge benefit, and would argue it's been a huge benefit for Cass County and for the village of Cassopolis. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Go Badgers.
Yes, sir. Somebody bounce me out of here upside down, I'll be a Wisconsin.
Hi, I'm Julie Roberts. I'm not a good speaker, but I will speak to you guys. You are the board. I thank you for helping to educate me and bring me to more awareness of what's going on in this community. Community awareness these days is very important, and I'm learning that because of the way our whole country is right now and what things are happening. I have concerns. Cass County is a great place to live. I live here. I'm not planning to move. I want to help support and keep it that way. I need to learn what's happening. I'm fortunate to be living in a conservative community, which to me means following constitutional law, set of laws, allowing freedom to live my life, raise and nurture and protect my family as I choose under these laws. I see these fundamental rights, I'm nervous, as an American citizen being chipped away, and I can't sit back and watch it anymore. I've been learning a lot these past years, and one of the biggest things is to do your own research. I speak today regarding the Market Van Buren. I'm learning about them, but what I have learned and what I have seen with the organization and articles on the organization and the affiliations, I start seeing words like global, climate change, Green New Deal, local governments for sustainability, sustainable urban development, non-governmental organizations working with governments, daring cities, tiny homes, George Soros, buzzwords, confusing descriptions on name associations, all raise flags for me. In today's caustic political environment, I see a party that's been hijacked and has been taken so radicalized that it's not even American anymore. There is real evidence of those tentacles of communism, Marxism here in Michigan. I just plead to the board to be cautious and vigilant as to how you proceed as a community, for our community, and who you put our trust in. You spoke to about trust. You have to earn that. And with that is transparency. And I'm having difficulty with the transparency here too. Thank you.
Thanks. One of the hardest things to do is speak in public. I get it. You did well.
Of course, you all know me. I'm Lynn Shantz. I'm going to ask you to table MVB, which is Market Van Buren. The reason why I'm asking you to do that is because I have found out that they were not honest with you when they told you how much money was brought into the county. When you got all you commissioners together and they came up and they had all of these numbers, this is how much money we brought into the county, they were not honest with you. They gave you figures that our employees worked hard, worked many hours for these grants. They gave you those figures that should have went, our employees should have been recognized for those grants that they brought in. No. MVB, they were the ones that took recognition for those grants. I don't know if anybody's wrote a grant or not. I've never wrote a grant, but I know there's many hours involved in writing a grant. The only thing I can give them credit for is Market Van Buren gave the employees the template to use. Now, having a template to use, yes, that's wonderful. They had something to go from. Market Van Buren did not put the many hours and the time that it took to do these grants, but yet they took recognition for the money that our employees brought in. And I really hope that you guys would table this, because anytime anything happens, oh, we got to do it now, we got to do it now, there's always the fear factor. And I mean, this is how everybody's running today, is on this fear factor. We don't want that fear factor. This is something that's really serious. What you need to do is you need to table it. If Market Van Buren wants to come back, they will let you table that. They'll come back within, I'd say 60 days. Give them 30 days. Tell them 30 days, come back, give you another proposal. But I'm not happy with them because they were not honest with you up front when they told you all the money they brought in, when they used the grant money that our employees should have got recognition for. At that dinner, our employees did not get recognition for that money that they brought in, that Market Van Buren, they took recognition for the money and they shouldn't have had to. So I'm just asking you, please table this, give it 30 days. Commissioners, you took an oath. Please look, talk to the employees. Find out what the employees are telling you. Ask them hard questions, because the employees are going to have hard answers to give you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lynn.
Hi, Lisa Smith, and I'm from Edwardsburg. I'm going to talk to you tonight again about the Agenda 21 development. It's an action plan to inventory and control the land, water, minerals, plants, animals, construction, means of production, information, energy, all human beings in the world. It's called inventory and control. Have you wondered where these terms sustainability and smart growth and high-density urban mixed-use development came from? Doesn't it seem like about 10 years ago you'd never heard of them, and now everything seems to include these concepts? Is that just a coincidence that every town, county, state, nation in our world would be changing their land use planning codes and government policies to align themselves with what? You can call it a tinfoil whatever. This is an actual United Nations plan signed into in 1992 by President George H.W. Bush, along with 178 other world leaders. The UN called it Agenda 21 because it's the agenda for the 21st century. According to the UN Secretary, General Morris Strong, the affluent middle-class American lifestyle is unsustainable. That includes single-family homes, private vehicles, appliances, air conditioning, meat eating. They're a threat to the planet. This might sound like a silly plan that doesn't affect you, but look around. This economic collapse is the UN Agenda 21. You'll hear that this plan is non-binding and that it's a dusty old plan with no teeth. That's a lie. In fact, over the last 20 years, this plan has been implemented over the United States. It's called Sustainable Development. It's the 3 E's: ecology, economy, equity. After Bush signed it in 1992, it was brought back to the U.S. by President Clinton. In 1993, when he created the President's Council on Sustainable Development for the sole purpose of getting it into every city, county, and state in the U.S. through federal rules, regulations, and grants. This is a global plan that has been implemented locally. You'll see that as a regional plan. It might be called Vision 2035, Your Town 2030. I think it might be called the Master Plan. I don't know. They call for stack and pack housing, restricted mobility, regional government, domestic surveillance, smart meters, GMOs, loss of freedom, and the UN agenda, sustainable development. You are losing your rights, you are being manipulated, you're being lied to. It's time to be the resistance.
Hi, I'm Joan Vidic, Porter Township. I'm going to try not to be repetitious, but I apologize because a lot of this is the same. Sustainable development was created and defined by the United Nations in 1987. Clinton began to implement it in the U.S. in 1983 by giving the American Planning Association a multi-million-dollar grant to write a land use legislative blueprint for every municipality in the U.S. It is called Growing Smart Legislative Guidebook, with model statutes for planning and the management of change, and change it would produce. This was completed in 2002 and is being used to train planners in every university, college, and government planning office in the nation. Growing Smart is smart growth, is what they call it. It has buzzwords: sustainable, vibrant, walkable, bikeable, green. These buzzwords were designed to make you think that you're doing something good for all of us. This is the biggest PR scam in the history of the world. Sustainable development, Growing Smart, is in our planning department, and its principles are in our city and county plan right now. This ideology is being used as the justification to radically change every city in the United States and to impose regulations dictated by unelected regional boards and commissions. It is remaking government, our government. This dramatic revolution in private property rights extends to every facet of all of our lives. In our education, in our energy, in our food, our housing, and our transportation. We are being told that this is our plan, but it's not. We object to this manipulation and refuse to be subjected to it. Educate yourself, please. Read more. Speak out. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Wendy Glosser, and I live in the city of Dowagiac. You guys are our elected officials. You're voted on by the people, okay? You know, you're all citizens and taxpayers here as well. You're not just county commissioners, but you're also citizens and residents. You were elected by the people to represent the people, okay? You all have your constituents, but together you're a commission. And it's come to my attention that a lot of the commissioners are new, and it seems like we have a little bit of a problem because, and this is from, honestly, this is from Washington DC all the way down. We have real problems with, I guess you basically, I'm going to call it the bureaucratic state. Okay, we have unelected bureaucrats who work under our elected officials, and they somehow manage to come in and flip it, like somehow, well, for instance, the administrator might be over, like the administrator is telling you guys what you can and can't do. That's not an administrator's job. An unelected bureaucrat who does not answer to the people, does not make decisions, they follow directions. They have a job description, and they work at the pleasure of the people's representatives, which in this case would be this commission. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, that's a bit of a problem that's from the ground up, all the way up to Washington DC. And we need you guys to get a grip on that and turn it around. And that can't happen. It happens on school boards. Superintendents serve at the pleasure of the school board, not the other way around. But these unelected bureaucrats have come in, and we have a lot of new people coming in, and they don't really know how to handle that. You're in charge. They have a job description. They work for you. You work for us. Okay, that's how it works, ground up. I just wanted to point that out, and you guys are trying hard, and I know a lot of you are new, and you can't know everything, but that's a real problem here. And then I'm going to skip down because I'm not going to be repetitive on some of the other things. Whether we are $2 million in the red or $1, right now that we are talking about a six-figure contract that we frankly can't afford. We have no idea. I haven't seen any numbers on the tax abatements for any of the, Norsk Hydro. I've looked into them quite a bit just because I was interested that they came here. But whatever tax abatements that they got, whatever, I know there's another, manufacturing firm that came in, I think it's over on the other side of the county. I don't know what that one is. But whatever tax abatements, this is a nebulous tax advantage. We don't know when it's ever going to pay off. I don't know what that looks like. So that's money that's in the future that we don't have yet. So we want to spend money that we don't have. Our sheriff's department can't even, we have all kinds of problems in our county. We need to be able to fund our agencies that exist right now with the money that we have, not spend money that we don't have. Okay? That's a huge problem. That's just like me saying, hey, I'm $500 short on my bills this month, but I'm going to grab this $100 out of there. I'm going to go down to the casino because I might win. Okay? Well, now how stupid and irresponsible of me would that be? So just asking you, think this one through because it's not right.
Thanks, Wendy. JD.
Hello. My name is JD Glosser. I live in Dowagiac. Just here to learn and just have a couple points. I've been told we need to grow the county. I've been told that we have people leaving, that we have a high foreclosure rate, so business needs to expand. That's reasonable. I'm a capitalist. I understand business. That's critical. It's important. Questions I have, though, are what kind of company would come in? And one of the things that we see is huge tax breaks or complete tax freedom to a company coming in where they don't have to pay anything. Well, then who pays for that? Because typically the salaries of the employees can't cover what the company would be paying. So that means me, the homeowner, I get stuck with that bill. And that just isn't right. So when you're looking at incentives to bring companies in, what are we talking about here? The other thing is, would this company enforce mask or vaccine mandates? Are we going to bring in a company that says every employee must be vaccinated or you're out? Well, what kind of company is that? That's something to consider. I've been in the county committee meetings not county committee, the Republican executive meetings for a long time, and we don't get a lot of information back about what is happening. What are the important decisions being made? What are the problems that the county's having? And we need to understand that. We need to talk about it. The people have to have an information system that says, here's what's happening, here's what we need to consider. The last big update we had was the county commissioner came in and said, we're $2 million in debt, we have to raise taxes. Why didn't we know about that before? So I would encourage you to be posting. I believe we have a county PR person that has to be giving information that is actually important for people to consider and that we're considering it, and that we have time, and not last-minute decisions that are in a hurry. You know, do we have a savings? I've been told we are in debt, but then I've been told we have a savings. I've been told that we have employees that are funded by the state. In order for the county to be independent, the county has to pay for its county employees, and we're not beholden to anybody else. So part of the budget needs to be, how does the county pay for the county employees? And what do we get in return for that employee's work? No one's entitled to anything. If they're producing something, great. If they're not, every business has to make a cut. There's no business that survives that never makes cuts in some form of capacity, or survives by having employees that don't do anything. So there needs to be a review of that process. I would just encourage that. Thank you.
Thanks, JD. What is everybody called? Mr. Boyer.
That's me, Roger Boyer from Porter Township. I have 2 points. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the second one, but the first one, I'm a little bit concerned that in the last couple of days I've discovered and then verified that there is at least one member of the county commission that's on Market Van Buren board. I've told there's actually supposed to be 2 positions, but one is not filled. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's good. But at the same time, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits in my previous life, 30 years as a matter of fact. And I don't believe a member of one board should be voting on issues or contracts or things that goes to another board that they're sitting on. I believe the public would consider that to be a conflict of interest. Technically, I'm not sure that it is, but it looks like one, and I would ask that that individual, whoever that is, would recuse themselves from voting on this contract issue and any issues with Market Van Buren. And that goes along with any other boards that are on, because I know you have members of on other boards. I go to the health board meetings, and there's 2 of you that are on that board. That's the first point. The second point, there's a housing study that Market Van Buren is proposing to do. It sounds like a really good thing. It's not going to cost the county any money, $50,000 from the state, $50,000 from local businesses and so forth. I'm a bit hesitant to support that because I believe housing is basically should be market driven. If there's a need for houses, they'll get built. If there's not a need, they won't. What concerns me then, along with that, is if they are built and they're not really needed, what's going to happen to the values of the people that already own property? Is it going to raise their values because they build $300,000, $400,000 houses, or is it going to lower them because they build tiny houses? I don't know. I don't understand the real estate market that well. I just know that a lot of strange things happen, and when we start tinkering with that market, we don't always know what the outcome is going to be. So I just hope you'll consider those points, and thank you.
Thanks. I don't know Ohio State.
My name is Ken Kemmer. I'm the President and Managing Director of CHT USA. Our facility is located over there by McDonald's on M60. In case you recognize, we're the not quite so big as Hydro, but the investment with the cranes and the building going up. Actually, we just installed the first $2 million reactors, and the $1 million distillation column is already in. So we're starting piping and hooking up there. So Zach asked me to speak today in favor of the Market Van Buren, and I didn't realize what I was walking into, but I'm here to say, the reason that we wouldn't be doing this $25 million investment. I'm part of a global company. We're actually a German-owned company that purchased what was ICM Products, which was a locally independently owned, that had been bought by private equity, and then became part of the CHT group. For this investment, we had many options. We could expand it with our existing facilities, either in Europe or in Asia. I'm responsible for a facility also in Richmond, Virginia. So we did very extensive research and also collaborations with local governments and entities from the state level, the local levels, and the county levels, in investigating where to put this investment. And hands down, with the help we had, particularly from Zach and Market Van Buren, we chose to make that investment here in Cassopolis. We roughly have about 50 employees currently with our business, and we're adding 35 employees. We're one of the highest paying, until Hydro came in, white collar and highly skilled blue collar jobs in the county, and also one of the largest employers. And I've heard a lot of things, and I hear about information and knowing, and I would encourage, and some of you I have met in the past, you've been to a ribbon cutting, or we have ribbon cutting and things like that. If you have questions about what kind of businesses, things like this and the support like this brings in, we're a good example of that. With no layoffs during COVID, no mandates, high-paying jobs, and we do have a housing shortage because, as I mentioned, 35 new jobs. We are struggling immensely to attract talent to fill these jobs. So, again, I am in support. I guess the last thing, the biggest thing I can say is I give my time and my resources to Market Van Buren itself because I think I'm a representative of their success. So I'm available to do things like this, to speak about private investment in our communities, and how they help pave the way for us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Don't look like there's any more. All right, we'll close the floor for public comment. All right.
I move we approve the agenda as written. Second.
We have a motion on the floor and a support. Do we have any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we can skip 5, 6, and 7 and go straight to 8 because there is nothing. First one is Alpha. It's M149-23. It's a motion to approve Market Van Buren Economic Development Agreement. I'm at the pleasure of the board.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion on the floor and support. I'm assuming we'll have much discussion, so I'll ask for, is there any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I just need to clarify, if it's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Couple of things. Indeed, I do serve on the Connexus board. I'm happy to. It's super, super interesting as far as I'm concerned. In fact, it's Berrien, Cass, and Van Buren counties. And I'm the chair of the chief elected officers. That's all of the commissioners. There's 6 of us. I don't have a vote. Ryan serves on that board. The commissioners that serve on that board, we don't have a vote. So I don't know where somebody got the idea that I should recuse myself because I don't vote on the board. And Les talked about it. I was on the EDC, and we had 2 really good people, I think. But we only had him 1 day a week, and one of the things that the EDC wanted was somebody that was going to really work on the things that Dave Allen taught and talked about and Ken talked about. We wanted somebody to work on those kinds of things. And so I'm absolutely in favor of approving Martin Van Buren's Economic Development Agreement.
Thanks, Ro. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, please.
At this point in time, we've had a problem with our budget. We've had positions we can't fill. I think we need to be fiscally responsible. Spending 6 figures plus for 3 years into a contract, to me, is not fiscally responsible. It's something we could look at down the road once we get our house in order. I'm not against manufacturing or any companies coming in. I spent 19 years in human resources and manufacturing. I know the importance of that. But at the same time, we have to be fiscally responsible. I think we could look at alternatives until we get in order. There are alternatives. We've already done studies that we're not utilizing. So I will not vote yes. I'll vote no.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Just overlooking the contract, I want to clarify, under the termination, either party may terminate the agreement at any time without just cause by giving the other party a 120-day notice. It goes on to say the county shall, within 30 days after termination, make the due payment for the contractor for the services rendered for any time periods prior to the date of termination. Are there any fees other than that that are going to be associated with if it ever got terminated?
I don't believe so.
Yes, please. I don't know that answer.
Thank you for the discussion opportunity.
Well, I need you to answer that
Yeah,
question.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
at that only for now.
Got it.
Thank you.
It would be based off from what the contract's written per month. So 4 months, if you give 4 months' notice, it would be whatever you take the annual prices by 12 each month is the cost. No additional fees. No hidden costs, all right there in the contract.
Thank you.
Anything else for him while he's there? I do have, so if this, for clarity, I know the answer, but for clarity for everybody, we're not voting on the housing study. We're just voting on you all's contract for the next 3 years, right?
Right.
Because a lot of people think that we're voting on that housing study with
Yep.
some people think that we're
Just the
voting on
contract.
that, so
Yep.
for clarity.
Just our agreement.
Yes, sir. I think that's all I have.
I like that.
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that I came on team here with the county, I think it was not during the initial period with COVID, but during that first agreement that we were establishing after that. I think that was the 2-year
21.
agreement.
I think it was
Yeah.
summer 21.
Yes. You know, and the one thing I guess I would say in the time that I've been here is, you know, I think there's been a lot of growth with Market Van Buren and a couple of things. I mean, there's a few of the services that Market Van Buren provides that I think it's important for us to realize that the county does not have the capacity right now to be able to fulfill those. So, you know, I mean, when we start looking at business engagement, for example, I mean, we don't have a person right now that's gonna be out going to CHT, talking to MEC and those businesses and being able to say, what can we do to help? Being able to connect those resources, if we're looking at things like MEDC and some of those programs are gonna help those communities, we don't have the ability to be able to do that. In terms of grant development, sure, I mean, I think within the county, we try to pursue grants whenever we can of our own accord, but I would give Market Van Buren, credit for helping us with the MDARD grant in particular for rural broadband. And I think the other thing that's I think about that is a lot of the influx of, funding that was brought in through those like MEDC and other organizations direct to your local businesses, where the county really didn't have a hand in it whatsoever. I know especially during COVID, there was a lot of that came up, and, Market Van Buren did a lot with that. You start looking at industrial property development. Those are things that are not necessarily in our wheelhouse, but I think with this agreement, the other thing to keep in mind is that it's not Market Van Buren after this, it's gonna be something different. It's recognizing the fact that this is gonna be an organization that serves multiple counties. And when you start looking at local development, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that Market Van Buren is not going to the county or going to any local municipality and saying, here's what you're going to do. They don't have that authority. It's working within, and for, our local units of government, our townships, our cities, our villages, and saying, what can we do to help connect you with resources? Going to your businesses and saying, how can we, make that work? And I think the bottom line really is that, yes, of course, there's an annual cost that comes along with this, but when you start looking at the taxable value of the county increasing, those are tax dollars that come in back to the county, and that helps make sure that when you start looking at increased need for services in the future, that's where a lot of that comes from. Your tax rate doesn't change, but if your taxable value increases, you're gonna have more funding to be able to provide for your departments and offices within the county, which is a huge factor. So just some of the observations I've had in working with this.
All right. I want to make a couple observations here under the scope of work, because I've read this several times, probably 10 or more. Doesn't matter how many times, but as long as I get a full understanding. But I want to point out a few things that they're going to engage with businesses to execute a business retention. That's under the scope of work on page 1 of 3. Then they're going to do the grant development, industrial property development. And my question for you, man, is under governmental affairs, it says Market Van Buren will help establish Cass County's presence in Lansing with key administration and legislative leaders to advance its economic development interests. Who is that person or those people?
Now, you're looking at one of them. Okay. So, as part of Connexus Group also, that we work with some people with expertise on navigating some of these things. And I don't know if you realize, but state government is complicated and has a lot of different parts to it. And our ability to make sure we're at the table when opportunities are being talked about and opportunities are available are important, because you can just about bet the bigger communities who are way more funded than us, have a lot more representatives than us, have a lot more people on staff to do lobbying, are doing that. And guess what? They get a lot of that money. A lot of those opportunities come to them. What we're trying to do on your behalf is make sure you don't get overlooked. Cass and Van Buren doesn't get overlooked. You've been overlooked historically, and our job is to make sure you don't get overlooked, so when money's being sent in form of grants and opportunities, it comes here and does not get overlooked. And that's what we're doing, is making sure the head of the MEDC, Quentin Messer Jr., before the head of the MEDC, never been to Cass County and made visits in Van Buren. I can tell you he knows who Cass County is. He knows who Van Buren County is. I pick up the phone and call him. He's given me his cell phone, gives everybody, but he actually picks up my calls and talks to me. And so anytime opportunities come, this relationship I built with him is now established, and he knows that when I talk, I'm representing Cass County in their best interest.
So not to cut you off, but
yeah,
under considerations, we have 2 out of the 5 seats that we represent as Cass County. So Market Van Buren can't do anything without those 2 representatives first knowing about it. And then you all can't do anything unless it's approved by this board, right?
Well, it depends what it is.
Yeah.
Yep, it depends what it is in that matter, but you will have 2 seats from the Board of Commissioners, and you'll have a total of 5 seats from Cass County. Now, the intentions are that presence grows over time, but in the interest of not just throwing people off the board and make room for them, we're going to do it in an orderly fashion over time. But we do have room that we're making for more seats from Cass County. And Ken is part of that. Commissioner Leyland's been part of our meetings and helping guide us on what's the best interest of Cass County for Market Van Buren. And Chad Ritchie from MEC is on the board, and we're going to be adding a few more people.
And but that answered part of my question, but
yes,
under governmental affairs also, you will not lobby on our behalf or do anything on our behalf. That's my biggest question for everybody. You can't do nothing without our permission, without us telling you yes or no.
I would not go to Lansing and advocate for a position you don't support.
Or anything,
Yep.
I get it.
And I'm not a lobbyist. You gotta be what is it, certified?
And I might have used the
registered. You'll be a registered lobbyist.
I
I'm
might
not
use
one.
the wrong word, lobby.
Yeah,
that may be on the wrong word for it.
Yep,
but
we don't do that.
All right.
But we make sure that you have a voice at the table.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I know we've talked about this before, but I just
Sure.
want to bring it out in the open. I've now, gotten this packet,
Yeah.
from 3 different meetings, same information on there. The conversation that you and I had yesterday was discussing, how do we truly quantify the value that the company brings to the county. We can very clearly see what we're gonna be paying out. But I understand it's kind of difficult to measure what we're bringing in, and, as the CHT representative spoke about, some of these conversations can be private, and I appreciate that. I understand that there's a challenge in being able to discuss exactly how Market Van Buren may have helped in facilitating some of these deals. But I challenge you that if we do go forward with this contract renewal, that we find a different way to communicate the value that's being brought to this community, other than the same verbiage that we're seeing over and over again.
Yeah, we'd welcome looking at different models. This is some of these things are state and national best practices for how you measure. But we're actually having a committee right now that's going through and looking at, Ken actually serves on it, and looking at how do we, what are the goals, how do we measure it, what are our KPIs, those kind of things, and working through it. And there's various things. I mean, it could start from the level of taxable value to all the way down to, how many companies are we calling on, right down to the bottom line. And there's many, many ways to measure the work we do, and we try to find the most simplest way, so we can do that. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anybody? Yes, sir. Yeah, ma'am, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, so in your contract under considerations, it talks about board members and being recommended by Market Van Buren, but they have to be approved by Connexus. So
Yes.
you report directly to Connexus, and you can't do anything without Connexus approval, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say that is accurate. I do have a reporting relationship because they are technically the parent company. We're a subsidiary of them. But we do have a board of directors who I also report to, and that's made up in a cross-section of people of the community.
Anything else? If not, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Leyland,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
No.
Commissioner Locke is absent, Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Howie,
No.
Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You're on thin ice, buddy, 120 days.
That's all I got. That's all I got. That's all I ever got, right?
All right, we're on to Bravo. That's M150-23. It's a motion to approve our fiscal year 23 budget amendments.
I make that motion?
Second.
We have motion on the floor and support. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that said, this meeting is adjourned till our next meeting.
10 minutes.
Yeah.